Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijja charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anutaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manusanang buddho bhagava ti swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipassiko opanayiko pacchatang veditambo vinyuhi ti supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho samici patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho yadidang chattari purisa yugani artha purisa pugala ese bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakhineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punya khettang lokasa ti evang buddhang sarantanang dhammang sanghang cha bhikkhavu bhayam va chambitattam va lomahamso nahesati iti. So now we have only 1 week. Tomorrow we will be entering into the last week of the retreat. And during this last week of the retreat, we want to pay more attention to the bodhisattva practice of the dhyana parami, of the perfection of meditation. And so far we have been trying to cover the most important aspects which are common to all those who want to get deep into meditation. So we have been, during our explanation of the meditation, we have been paying attention especially to the practice of anapanasati, because it is the easiest practice to attain the 4 kinds of dhyanas, which are the basic training in the samadhi. And we have explained the in-breath and out-breath is following us all through the life. So it is connected with all our activities, with all that we do with our bodies and the mind. So it is the most convenient object to enter into the practice of mindfulness and awareness, which the Buddha has described as the only way. No matter what type of Buddhist practices we do, finally they boil down to this very practice of mindfulness and awareness. The difference is just in the skillful means. So our explanation of the practice of mindfulness of the in-breath and out-breath would not be complete without explaining the 16 exercises which are described in all Buddhist traditions as the complete course of liberation. So, yesterday we have explained that this practice of the mindfulness of the breath is concerned with the 4 bases of mindfulness. Chatvari smrti upasthanani Sunyenchu. These 4 bases of mindfulness can be practiced on the base of the observation of breath. Now, in some scriptures explaining the mindfulness of the breath, Buddha explains only the 4 first exercises that we have analyzed so far. I hope you still remember. Shall I repeat again? You remember? The Anapanasati Sutta say in Pali, Sato va asasati, sato va pasasati, Digham asasanto digham asasamiti pajanati, digham pasasanto digham pasasamiti pajanati, rasam asasanto rasam asasamiti pajanati, rasam pasasanto rasam pasasamiti pajanati, sabakaya pati samvedi asasisamiti sikhati, sabakaya pati samvedi pasasisamiti sikhati, pasambayam kaya sankaram asasisamiti sikhati, pasambayam kaya sankaram pasasisamiti sikhati. So the translation is first starting with I breathe in, I breathe in, I breathe out mindfully. This is not the exercise yet, but this is the entrance into the exercise. We have already explained that the part of the meditation on breath concerned with the mindfulness of the body is explained in 8 steps or 7 steps in the Northern tradition, right? I hope you still remember. So the first step is ganana, counting. This mindfully breathe in and breathe out. This is explained the practice of counting. One establishes oneself on the breath and remains mindful of the breath. We have also explained the peculiarity of the practice of mindfulness of the body. Do you still remember? When we practice mindfulness of the body, how do we practice? Who will tell me? You should have the clear grasp. We have been repeating it all the time. When one practices a mindfulness of the body, all feelings, all perceptions, all differentiations of the mind are based in the body. The mindfulness of the breath is the entrance into the practice of mindfulness of the body. In Satipatthana Sutta and in Kaya Gata Sati Sutta, Buddha explains the practice of mindfulness on the base of Anapanasati, mindfulness of the body. So you should be aware of the fact that according to Buddha's teachings, all that we can realize and we can know in the world, we can only know through the body. The truth of the arising of the world, the truth of the passing away of the world, all we can only realize through the body. So there is no need to go to the end of the world. The world is to be known through the body. So the Buddha teaches in this 7-foot-long body, there is the secret of the origin of the world and of the end of the world, of the truth of suffering, of the cause of suffering, of the end of suffering, and of the way towards the end of suffering. So we have explained in the first week that when one practices a mindfulness of the body, the all is experienced through the body, and we dissolve the 4 kinds of ignorances in regard to the body, namely the 4 kinds of ghanas. Ghana means literally thickness. Thickness is that which prevents our mind for seeing clearly. Seeing clearly what? Seeing clearly that this body is just a process, santati. That this process does not belong to one, but belongs to many kinds of corporeality, and each kind of corporeality has its own function. If one meditates in this way, one will dissolve the idea of self in the body. You should always keep it in mind. When the mindfulness has been established on the breath, in the body, because the breath belongs to the body, when we observe the breath, our mind turns inside the body. The condition for attaining concentration is isolate the mind from the impressions of the 5 senses. These are responsible for the monkey mind. And unless one practices Samatha and Vipassana, one will never be fully aware of the troublesome nature of the monkey mind. We have explained that all the defilements, without exception, have to do with the monkey mind. So it is the process of learning Samatha and Vipassana is nothing but the process of reducing and eliminating the power of the monkey mind on us. Then one can become a human in the real sense. So, when one has established mindfulness on the breath, one will be clearly aware of whether the breath is long or short and the causes of the long and short breath. We have explained that in the beginning, when one has mindfulness and becomes relaxed, then the breath will be long. When one approaches the state of deeper concentration, the breath will become short. That's why first is long breath explained and then the short breath. In the state of deep concentration, the breath becomes very short. When the concentration improves, we have explained the fourth exercise is I learn because one needs more mindfulness, more awareness. I learn to breathe in and breathe out, experiencing the whole body. And we have explained the whole body means actually three bodies: the whole body of the breath, the whole body on which the breath is based, that means a karmic body, karajakaya, and the whole body of the mind which is observing the breath. At this stage, if one can do it, the proximate sign of concentration will arise. And one will prepare for the experience of deeper concentration. Then the last exercise we have explained, Pasambayam Kaya Sankaram, I refine, I learn to breathe in and breathe out while refining the formation of the body. Formation of the body is nothing but the breath. It is a breath which makes the body move. The breathing, technically in Buddhism, we have explained, is nothing but the mind-created wind element. Just like our speech and our movements of the body is nothing but the mind-created wind element. This mind, this bodily formation, the breath, becomes, as we have explained in the last week, becomes more and more subtle in the deeper and deeper stages of concentration until it practically disappears. This is a process of I breathe in and breathe out, sublimating the bodily formation, sublimating the breath. Now this process, the shamatha part of it, we have already explained, is counting, then following the breath. In Southern tradition, following the breath and touching the breath together. In Northern tradition, no touching breath because the object is breath in the whole body. We have explained all that. And the last step in shamatha practice is then fixing. Fixing, we have explained, is the same name as vitarka, as applied thought. Applied thought is that mental factor responsible for entering into the state of proximate samadhi and the first samadhi. But here technically it means all states of samadhi where the mind is fixed on the object. That means every first, second, third and fourth jhana is the apana, is fixing. When the mind is in jhana, the object does not change, and the mind, the mental factors of the mind also do not change. That is fixing. All this we have already explained, and we have started explaining the Vipassana part, which we do not want to analyze in detail because in this retreat our emphasis is on the shamatha practice as the perfection. So in the Vipassana part we have again 4 exercises. Observing, turning away, Quan, Huang, then Parishuddhi, the purification, and the knowledge of the purification. We won't explain in detail. In the tradition of the Visuddhimagga, the process of purification of the mind is explained in terms of 7 purifications on the base of Ratha Vinita Sutta. The first purification, second purification is of no concern with Vipassana. The last 5 purifications are all Vipassana. We have explained this same process is also explained by 3 thorough knowledges, and we have started explaining them yesterday, but have not finished. The first knowledge is in Jnata Pariññā, the knowledge of the object of wisdom. What is the object of wisdom? The object of wisdom is the 5 aggregates of existence, the 12 spheres of perception, 18 elements of perception, and the dependent origination. These are the objects to be known in order to enter into Vipassana. These are the first knowledges of Vipassana, the Nama Rupa Paricheda, the knowledge of the Nama and Rupa, and the Pacaya Parigaha, the understanding of the Pacayas, of the conditions. Unless you experience this directly, you have no access into analytical vipassana. So now, since you are paying attention to the breath, you define these elements of knowledge in regarding the breath and the body, which is a base for the breath. Very simple. The rupa is the breath. The body, which is the base for the breath, is also rupa. That one analyzes in terms of 4 elements. If one does so, some of you are training in that meditation, the body will disintegrate into kalapas. These kalapas can be still further analyzed in terms of the rupas, which are for the Abhidharma tradition, the ultimate realities. I will not teach you now. It is you can just take interest and study later. In Theravada tradition, we have 28 rupas. 18 of them are objects of vipassana. 10 are the skillful means. They are in Northern Buddhism analyzed as the Chitta Viprayukta Samskara Shin Pushyangin. So that which is object, that is a rupa, that which observes the object, that is a nama. And nama means the aggregate of feeling, aggregate of perception, aggregate of form, of mental formations, and the aggregate of consciousness. They are aggregates because all have many elements and each have different function. When you have defined the 5 aggregates, either in detail or in groups, 2 kinds of vipassana, in detail or in groups, very important to understand. In the Abhidharma tradition, of course, they especially praised the vipassana in detail. It is then becomes a very deep science of mind and body. This deep science of mind and body, unfortunately, has practically disappeared in the Northern tradition, but was preserved only in Burma. Most of the meditators do not study the namas and rupas in detail. Now, once you have studied the 5 aggregates of existence, then you can investigate their causes and conditions. This is a dependent origination. This study of dependent origination is also being done on the base of the breath. How it is done, very nice explanation in the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra. The meditator investigates the breath. What is the base for the breath? He finds out it is the mind and the body. What is the base for the mind and the body? He finds out it is the life faculty. What is the life faculty is parallel concept to the chi or prana. And what is the base for the mind, for the life faculty? What do you think? The previous formations, will formations. And what is the base for the previous will formations? Ignorance. Due to ignorance, there are will formations. Due to will formations, there is the life faculty. Due to life faculty, there is mind and body. Due to mind and body, there is breath. Then, when one has investigated the objects of knowledge, one can then see them. Next complete knowledge is the tirana parinya. One can then see them in the process of arising and passing away in each and every instant. All these elements of knowledge, 5 aggregates of existence, 12 spheres of perception, 18 elements of perception, the 12 links of dependent origination, arise due to causes and conditions and disappear as soon as they have arisen, naturally. This is the state of the world. And that is why the wise men, like Mahatma Gandhi says, I have read in one of his articles, even in the deepest depths of the ocean, you will not find a iota of peace. In this world there is no peace, because everything, mind, and what is seen by the mind is in the state of appearance and disappearance. This is what the meditator understands in the tirana parinya, in the full knowledge through investigation. All the phenomena of our experience appear and disappear in the same moment. Unless one sees it very clearly, one will not be able to turn away. If one wants to become an arahat, one has to turn away from this suffering of So the next step is pahana parinya. Pahana means leaving, bye-bye. Bye-bye impermanence. How bye-bye impermanence? By detaching from the impermanence. So pahana means leaving. The real leaving of attachment starts in the advanced stage of Vipassana, when due to power of knowledge one does not pay attention anymore to arising and starts paying attention only to the cessation. This is a turning point in Vipassana. When one does not pay, due to understanding of the speed of impermanence, anymore attention to the arising, the mind starts getting deep into the process of purification. This leads to the knowledge of equanimity in regards to all formations. This is a process of huang, of turning away. We have explained, Vipassana is explained in the meditation on the breath in 4 stages. First stage, investigation. Second stage, turning away. Turning away is by studying impermanence, which is the common characteristic of all phenomena of our experience. This can best be seen in the study of the breath with concentration. When the mind turns away from impermanence, having realized the knowledge of equanimity to all formations, one will be able, if he wants to follow the path of the Arahat, to realize directly the object of liberation, the nirvana. This is called the path of seeing. There has to be the path of seeing. Then, by the path of meditation, one can completely uproot all defilements. First, the path of seeing, by directly seeing the object of liberation, one will be free from the view of the self. When one is free from the view of the self, then one will be free from all powerful defilements. The defilements have power because of the view of the self. When there is no more view of the self, defilements lose the power. So when there is direct experience of the object of liberation, no more view of the self, no more doubt. What is there to doubt about? One has seen directly. And no more attachment to rituals. So, by path of meditation, by contemplating, further contemplation of cessation, the disciple of the Buddha becomes an Arahat. That is Parishuddhi, the complete purification, by abandoning all defilements. Having abandoned all defilements, he has the knowledge of purification, which implies, after the diamond samadhi, which cuts off all defilements, he knows there is no more birth for me. What is to be done is done. And as far as the path of an arahat, there is nothing more to learn. So this is what one can realize by meditating on the breath. Now we come to the second section of the 16 exercises, namely explaining the practice of mindfulness of the feelings, Vedana Anupassana. Our existence in the world is often compared to a wheel which is always turning. The outer side of the wheel is our body. The body, the impermanence of the body is most clearly seen. Like when the wheel is turning, the outer side of the wheel, like the tires of the wheel, we can see very clearly that they are always in movement. It is very easy to know that your body is not the same as it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. All of us know it. But not all of us make the conclusions in the body is not the same as it was 10 years ago or even 1 year ago. That actually it has to be changing in each and every instance. This is the nature of the body. And this is the nature of the world. Whether you like it or not, this world is turning around the sun with a speed of I don't know how many kilometers per second. So all that can be felt is in the process of the movement. So next, after analyzing the body, comes the feeling. Feeling is that which accepts what? Accept the object. It is the reception of the object, ling na in Chinese. It is translated as feeling, but when we say in English feeling, it is not quite a satisfactory translation of what Vedana or show means. Vedana actually is derived from the Sanskrit root vid, which means knowing. When we receive the object, only then we know it. And when we receive the object, we know it as pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant. This knowing will decide the process of differentiation of the object, which is mind or consciousness. So as the Agamas explain, we have already said, that which the differentiation of the mind is nothing actually than the differentiation of the feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant. The differentiation of the mind is governed by that. That is why it is very important to understand this observation of the feeling is so of utmost importance. Among the 12 links of dependent origination, it is only in the link of the feeling becoming the base for greed, desire, thirst. That is a point of the dependent origination where we can actually break the vicious circle of samsara. The samsara is feeling. And the feeling, the synonym in Buddhism for thirst or greed or desire is nandi. Nandi literally means enjoyment. Now, what are the anupassana, the observation of feelings on the base of breath? Again, 4 exercises. Piti patisamvedi asasisamiti sikhati, piti patisamvedi pasasisamiti sikhati, sukha patisamvedi asasisamiti sikhati, sukha patisamvedi pasasisamiti sikhati, citta sankharam patisamvedi asasisamiti sikhati, citta sankharam patisamvedi pasasisamiti sikhati, pasambayam citta sankharam asasisamiti sikhati, pasasisamiti sikhati. 4 exercises. With in-breath and out-breath become 8. So the first is, while breathing, he is learning to experience joy while breathing in and breathing out. Now try to breathe in and breathe out while experiencing joy. How long can you do it? You have to be in a state of samadhi in order to be able to do it for a long, long time. When you have the first and the second jhana, which has joy, then you can experience joy for 1 hour, always the same joy for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. If you're a great master, even for the whole day. And that joy is much more pleasant than the joy one experiences with the senses. It is a mental joy. Now, getting out of the concentration, one observes the mind, immediately preceding mind, observing the anapana nimitta, and studies this joy appearing and disappearing in each and every moment of consciousness. So, one can detach from the joy, and one actually experiences joy as nothing but suffering of impermanence. So, detaching from this most subtle, pleasant joy of the jhana, then one will not be crazy or very much attached to all the other kinds of joy one can experience in the world. It does not mean one does not experience them, one can experience them, but without attachment. So we have already explained the stages of mastery of the samadhi. First stage is the attainment. Second stage is complete detachment. This is how it works. The third stage is then the neither deficiency nor access in all mental factors, and one taste of the mind, the taste of purity. So, this is a very wonderful practice, coming into the deeply, as deep as possible, into this joy of, subtle joy of jhana, experiencing it through each and every pore of one's body, then meditating on its impermanence and detaching from it completely. That process will also allow that one can experience this joy thoroughly, because one will detach from it. It is the attachment which prevents us from experiencing our the object thoroughly. So the next step is sukha patisamvedi asasisamiti sikhati, sukha patisamvedi pasasisamiti sikhati. I learn while breathing in and breathing out, experiencing the happiness. There are two kinds of happiness. Happiness with joy and happiness without joy. The happiness without joy is much more subtle than the happiness with joy. Some of you have already experienced. It is quite a different world. The happiness with joy is lacking this quality of deep mindfulness and awareness. The happiness without joy is the perfection of happiness. So, having filled oneself with this happiness with joy of the first and second dhyana, and happiness without joy of the third dhyana, one again observes them in the process of impermanence and detaches from them completely. The third exercise is Chitta Sankhara Patisamvedi Asasisamiti Sikhati, Chitta Sankhara Patisamvedi Pasasisamiti Sikhati. While experiencing he learns while experiencing the formation of the mind to breathe in and breathe out. What is the formation of the mind? Formation of the mind is nothing else but the feeling and perceptions. So, how does one study this? In different stages of mind. One studies the differences in feeling. Buddha is teaching by experiencing deeply the feeling of pleasure in the first dhyana. One can detach from all pleasures in the sensual world by experiencing the more peaceful pleasure of the second dhyana. One can detach from the pleasure of the first dhyana, experiencing still more peaceful pleasure of the third dhyana. One detaches from the pleasure of the second dhyana and experiencing the most peaceful pleasure of equanimity, which is not really pleasure, but just peace, happiness of peace. One again can detach from the previous lower pleasures. This is a practice of breathing in and breathing out, experiencing the formation of the mind, while feeling and perceptions are called formations of the mind because they play the crucial role in forming the mind. The mind differentiates in accordance with what feelings feel and perceptions perceive. In the tradition of Northern Buddhism, in Yogacara Bhumi Shastras, the explanation is different. And both explanations are very reasonable and can be put together. In Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, this exercise is explained as while breathing in and breathing out, experiencing all kinds of different defilements of the feelings, like pride, attachments, wrong views. And the last exercise, Pasambayam Chitta Sankaram Asasi Samiti Sikhati, Pasambayam Chitta Sankaram Pasasi Samiti Sikhati. I learn to refine the formations of the mind, that means feelings and perceptions, while breathing in and breathing out. In the Northern tradition, the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, it is explained as abandoning, cutting off all the defilements of the feelings, pride, wrong view, attachments, and so on. In the Visuddhimagga tradition, it is explained as experiencing more and more pure feeling as one goes from the world of perception dominated by the senses to the first absorption, second absorption, third absorption, and fourth absorption. The fourth absorption has the ideal state of balance, of wisdom and concentration. So the feeling being connected with the purity of equanimity is completely purified feeling. That is why we have already said the fourth dhyana is often called Pi Phen Nye Pan. It is a state similar to nirvana, but very different from nirvana, but yet similar in the quality of purity of feeling and perception. The mind is completely non-attached to feelings. It has no pleasant feeling, no unpleasant feeling, and its equanimity is perfect. So this is called the happiness of equanimity. So in dhyana we speak of three kinds of happiness: the happiness with joy, happiness without joy, and the happiness of the purity of equanimity. So now we have explained the practice of the feelings, and we have explained how important this practice is. The feeling, detachment from the feelings is the way towards detachment from the mind. Our wheel of existence is that outside is the body, near to the body is a feeling, next comes perceptions, which are closer to the mind, next come will formations, which are still closer to the mind, and in the middle of our experience in the mind is a mind. That's why the mind is mistaken for the self, because its impermanence is most difficult to be seen. So one has to see the impermanence of the body, then impermanence of the feelings. When one sees impermanence of the feelings, one sees clearly impermanence of perceptions. When one sees impermanence of perceptions, one sees impermanence of will and with will connected mental factors. And when one sees their impermanence, one will not be confused about the idea of self in the mind or mind in the self. So everything in our experience, from outside to the middle, which is mind, is in the state of turning. There is a beautiful simile in the Samyutta Nikaya where the process of life is compared to the wheel, which turns and turns as long as the impulse is there. when the impulse is gone, then the wheel starts turning on the same place, it does not go any further, and when the impulse has disappeared from the wheel, then it sinks. So this is how the attachments are removed step by step by observing the impermanence, the non-satisfactory state of all phenomena in impermanence. The non-self nature in impermanence. And because of non-self, then not belonging to the self, which means emptiness. So after feeling comes the mind. What receives the world are the feelings. What receives the feelings is the mind. And the mind decides what is seen, the objects of the mind. So we will talk about this more maybe tomorrow morning. Too many informations make the mind turn too quickly, and it should turn slowly, slowly and mindfully. Otherwise, too much chi comes to the mind. Then you will have to ask Wenjie for acupuncture on the foot. So, okay, so let us finish here.